So, hello dear students, let's start with another chapter in our English reader, that is Unit 8, Fire, Friend and Foe. Now when we talk about fire as a friend and a foe, foe means an enemy, something that is bad. So fire can be useful as well as fire can be bad. Now, in sense, like fire is something that you get burnt with. It's a chemical reaction that fire is burnt. Like fire originates. Like it's a chemical reaction which takes place like in the air when oxygen in the air combines with hydrogen and carbon dioxide. It gives a form of heat and light, and that is the process how fire comes, how fire burns. So here we will be studying about fire, its uses and how it can be an enemy to you, or in other words, how it can be bad. So let's start with the chapter. I will be reading the chapter and will be explaining you simultaneously. Fire, friend and foe. Early man didn't know what fire was, but he must have seen the damage it could cause. He must have watched lightning and volcanoes long before he began to use fire himself. Yes, we all know about early man, how fire was discovered. We have studied in our history chapter when we studied about early man, how the fire came into and how people started using fire and how it became one of the biggest discoveries. So it started with the lighting. It gives light, it gives heat. In early times, people could cook food. Before that, they were eating raw. It protected them from cold and even from wild animals. So there were so many different uses of fire. He must have watched lightning and volcanoes before he began to use fire himself. Yes, because in early times, as you know, how they started, it is assumed that there was a dry grass was kept and they were hitting two stones together, the early man, and a spark came and it lit the grass, the dry grass, and suddenly fire, and that is how they discovered fire. Fire may have puzzled early man, but we know that the fire is a result of a chemical reaction. Yes, it is a long time ago we found out that fire was a chemical reaction. It was not a sudden, some discovery or something, but it was a chemical reaction. So what was the chemical reaction? It was when the oxygen in the air combines with carbon dioxide and hydrogen in a fuel, a chemical reaction takes place. Energy in the form of heat and light is released in this process. This is what we call fire. Three things we needed to make fire was fuel, oxygen and heat. Yes, how something is burned, it needs a fuel to burn something, and then it needs oxygen, it needs heat that is produced from the burning process. Wood, coal, cooking gas and petrol are some of the examples of fuel. Oxygen comes from the air. This is why when you blow on smoldering paper, it often bursts into flames. Burning smoldering means burning slowly without flame. Yes, when you light, take a chunk of paper, a ball of paper, and then you can just light it. So it will not suddenly start burning, but it will slowly, that process is smoldering. And if you try to, keep it in a place where it's blow it, or if you try to blow it, blow the air from your mouth, and that oxygen helps it to burn it more bright. So the third thing, this is why when we blow the smoldering paper, it often bursts into flame. The third thing needs to make fire is heat. Fuel and oxygen do not make fire by themselves, or else a newspaper or a stick lying in an open would catch fire. on its own. To burn a piece of paper or wood, we heat it before it catches fire. Yes, it gets heated up. If it is something, you can't just burn anything around. If it is something that has, it's moisture, or it has water in it, you can't burn it. You need it something to be, to be not having a moisture. It has to be heated up. We generally do it with a lighted match. Every fuel has a particular temperature at which it begins to burn. This temperature is called the flash point or kindling temperature of the fuel. Yes, every fuel, everything needs, it has to be at a point. The heat has to be, the temperature has to be at a point to let it start burning. That is known as the flash point. It is sometimes said the fire is a good servant but bad master. It only means that fire is very useful as long as it is kept under control. Yes, because you must have seen forest fires, or you must have seen a house burning, or you must have seen a gas explosion. So you have to have a limit to it, right? You have to keep it under control. And if you don't keep it under control, it can destroy. It can destroy huge forest, it can destroy a house, and if it is under control, it can destroy anything. For instance, when we use it to cook our food, warm our homes in winter, and to generate electricity. But on the other hand, if fire gets out of control, it can be very dangerous. Each year, thousands of homes and shops are damaged by fire. You must have heard, no? Now, recently in the news, when this lockdown was open, and suddenly you must have heard about so many explosions. There was a great explosion in Beirut. Then there was a big fire, one gas explosion near Delhi. Then every day you'll find something or the other burning. And recently, all these news are coming. So you must have heard about the forest fire in the Amazon basin. So there are so many things that you must have heard where fire went out of control. So each year, thousands of homes, shops are damaged, and vast area of forest are destroyed, and hundreds of people are killed and injured. Just as 3 things are needed to start a fire, there are 3 main things in which a fire can be put out. In each one of the 3 things needed for burning is taken away. So what is the 3 things that was needed for burning? Was a fuel, heat, and what else was there? Oxygen. Yes. Fuel, heat, and oxygen. If one of the things is taken away, the fire can be controlled or stopped. For example, we take away the fuel. If the fire has no fuel to feed on, no burning can take place. We often let the fire die out simply by not adding more fuel to it. The second way of putting out fire is to prevent oxygen from reaching it. No supply of oxygen means no fire. Now, very known example that you do in science is that you take a burning candle and then you put a glass tumbler on it and the candle stops burning. That means you prevent it from getting oxygen. So this was a very good example that you do in science as in one of the experiment. So cut off the oxygen supply and the fire goes off. No supply of oxygen means no fire. Small fire can be put out or smothered with a damp blanket or a sack. Yeah, that's why you must have seen in movies also, na, how they use when there is a fire or something. They wrap a blanket over the person or the thing that they want to stop burning from or save from burning. So this stops oxygen reaching the burning blanket, and sometimes carbon dioxide is used to extinguish fire. It does not allow oxygen to reach the burning material. Yeah, extinguish means to put on. You have a fire extinguishers, the red bottle big, that is called the fire extinguisher. That means it's used to stop the fire. So the third way of putting out a fire is to remove the heat. If the temperature can be brought down below the flash point, the fuel stops burning. You blow on a burning matchstick or a candle to put it out. Yeah, we release carbon dioxide. Yeah, when we have to blow out something, we just, what you just blow the burning material and then it stops. You blow a candle or you blow a matchstick and it stops. That means the carbon dioxide, it stops. It absorbs heat from the burning fuel and lowers the temperature. The blanket of water also cuts off the supply. Water is a good supply of oxygen and the fire is extinguished. So the three things that are used to stop fire, if you use the three things that can get the fire, that is fuel, oxygen and heat. If we cut down the supply of these three things, the fire would not burn, or it would just stop burning. Some fires cannot be put out with water. If water is sprayed onto an oil fire, the oil will float to the top of the water and continue to burn. Yes, the oil forms a layer on top of the water. If you drop 2-3 drops in, you can take a bowl and you can drop some oil on it. So oil will float. It will not sink, it will not absorb, it will not mix, but it will float on the surface. And in case if a fire catches on there, then it will continue to burn. The water will not cut off the supply of anything, or the water will not stop it from burning. This can also be very dangerous. Water can flow quickly, carrying the burning oil, and it can spread it. It can spread to a large area. Water should not also be used fire caused by electrical appliances. Yes, when your hands are wet, you are not allowed to touch the electrical appliances because you may get shock. And in case of electric, you can say a fire that is an electrical switch or on something cross connection, or so you cannot use water in that way. It will create, it will have a shock. Means you can get shock from that. The person spraying water might receive an electric shock and be killed. A carbon dioxide extinguisher is best thing to fight an electrical fire. That's why you may find in the malls, in your school itself, and the places where there is electrical appliances or the switchboards or everything is there. There they don't use water, they use fire extinguisher to extinguish the fire. We spend millions of rupees each year in fighting fires, and we spend more trying to find new ways to prevent fires from happening and getting out of control. On the whole, we have learned rather well to control fire and put it to good use in our everyday life. Long ago, there were no firemen. When fire broke out, everybody became a firefighter. Yes, in early times when there was no such firefighters or ambulance and fighting. So how they used to how the fire used to be put off. So everybody used to be together. They used to be like, the passing buckets of water or passing sand to burn out the fire, to cut off the supply of oxygen. So what they used to do, they used to form human chain and pass buckets of water from a well or a pond to the blaze, to the place where the fire was. Now there are laws about building constructions which ensure that space is left between buildings to reduce the fire risk. Then in everywhere, means every mall and big hospitals, multinational companies, big apartments with 20, 30, 70 floor, everybody, it is a mandatory instruction from the government that you have to take all these measures. Even in schools also, there has to be a fire exit. You must have seen in a mall especially, or a big building, or a multinational company, there is a fire exit. So that is a place where in case there is a fire in the locality, or in case there is a fire in the place of working, you can get out of that fire exit and you can save yourself. So this is a mandatory, that permission that you have to take from the government before building, before the construction of the a mall or a multinational company or a big high-rising building or a school itself. So every new building, especially a public place, must ensure observance of fire prevention measures or norms. Bands of firefighting workers with special equipments known as the fire brigades. Yes, you have the fire brigade that has the firefighters and a big machine that is a big tank with a lot of water in it is used to extinguish fire. So they are special equipped, known as the fire brigades, and they are used, means they put out fire. Firefighters are highly trained people. They possess many skills. They cut off electricity supply, knock down dangerous walls, spray water and other materials to bring out fire under control. So they see the situation, how the situation is and what is it. Is there some electrical default, or is there just a fire? So they take care of the situation and do according to it. So that is what they are trained for. So they are also trained for first aid. Yes, the first aid is the most important measure that they take. If they take out a person from the building that is on fire, the very first thing what they have to give. So that is what they are trained in. So they can help in suffering from burns, or if there is an effect of smoke or less of oxygen, what all they can do. So the discovery of fire helped early man to cope up with nature better and gradually adopted a settled mode of life. Fire is still worshipped in many parts of the world. Yes, you use fire, it's of great importance. In every yag, in every puja, you use fire as and it is worshipped also. So fire indeed is a friend, but as we know, it can be dangerous if it gets out of control. Yes. So we studied that a fire can be a friend and a foe. A fire can be useful, and at the same time a fire can be bad. It can be useful if you take proper measures and use it under control, and it can become your enemy, or it can be bad and become worse if it is taken, or if it gets out of control. So there are three things that ignites the fire, that is fuel, oxygen and heat. And if these three things are removed from the causes of the fire can be stopped. And even there are special equipments and special brigade that is known as the fire brigade, a well trained, equipped, that is used to extinguish fire if there are, and they are well trained and well equipped people with they know the first aid also, the measure that can be taken if a person gets burnt or if there is effect of smoke or less of oxygen. So we learned that fire can be useful as well as bad, and it can be useful if it is used under control, and it can be bad if it goes out of control. So I hope you have understood the chapter. Please see the video carefully and write the answers.